Hi.
Yay!
It's so nice to see your face.
Ah, hello.
Hey, Tiro.
How you doing?
I am good. I'm like excited to be doing this. It's funny when you reached out to me to ask if I wanted to be involved.
Mhm.
Yeah, because when you had first posted about it, I was like, oh, I should reach out and tell her I'll do it. And then I was like, there's so many more interesting people from thespians.
Oh, shut up. That's what I'm like, that's what I'm afraid of. Like I reach out to like the interwebs and I'm like, hey, reach out if you're interested. So if people don't reach out, I'm thinking, all right, well, maybe they're just camera shy or they're not really interested or whatever. And I forget that these theater kids, right, who were just like, I'll do it. Now they're adults and they're like, well, no, I don't know. And I'm like, no, of course, yes, say yes.
Well, I'm very honored that you asked me to be a
Well,
part of
and
this.
I am honored that you agreed. So, by the way, you look great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
my kids are at daycare today, so I had time
I gotta,
to, you know.
I gotta get the pretty on. And you look, are you in your house or in your classroom? Like,
I am in my house. We just bought a house in the fall, and this is this is my room. This is my desk over here, my grandmother's paintings. It's like the front room. It's like the living room of the original house, but the people like years and years ago did an addition. So we have like a family room in the back of the house, which is where we like hang.
Mhm.
So my husband was totally cool with me just making this room. We call it the library.
This is my space.
It's my heavy space.
I love it.
And
Well,
this is where my kids color on the table.
yeah, it's a great space to do this. It like ties into your teaching and everything. So
Yeah.
I'm super excited. Okay, let's get this party started. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Change for the Better, the Power of Arts in Education, episode 28.
I'm Stacy Tiro, a high school performing arts teacher for over 25 years. I've taught a lot of amazing people. Now that so many of my students are adults, they'll teach me how, through the lessons in my classroom, they have been changed for the better.
Amazing.
I know. Like, I can't believe it's been like 28 people already. It's so crazy. Okay, so today, I'm very excited actually, because today's guest is a Spring Valley graduate of 2008. I'm not totally sure if I've gotten 2008 yet. You might be
I
able
don't think so. I've been watching.
Oh, yay. Yeah, I think you're the first one. So yay, congratulations. I remember this gorgeous person as an energetic, bubbly young woman with an infectious laugh. And clearly that hasn't changed. So yay. Back then, she quickly embraced our performing arts offerings. She took my dance classes and she made the most out of her thespian experience. She was thespians, when she was there. So she worked her way through from understudies to supporting roles to leading roles, and eventually she was my assistant director in her senior fall show. She had some great experiences along the way, including, and I'm so happy you shared this with me, she had to kiss her brother's best friend on stage, which annoyed her to no end.
They're still best friends.
I know, I know. I'm like, oh my God, that's
They were
hilarious.
together last weekend.
And it's funny because I wouldn't have thought of it as anything because I'm the director and this just has to happen, so deal with it. But it's really funny to like hear about that.
Traumatizing for me.
Exactly. She also performed Sandy in Grease and then Polly in Crazy for You. So, and she has a beautiful voice, by the way. I don't know if we're gonna get blessed with her vocal chops, but she has a gorgeous, gorgeous voice. I'm also going to share what is now a legendary, even if it's legendary in my own mind, story about her in 42nd Street. So she was waiting for her next cue, I think in the dressing room. And she was far away from earshot of the stage. And she was joking around in the dressing room, and all of a sudden we hear in the auditorium, "I'm Maggie Jones!" expletive. And her body mic, unfortunately, was on, thanks to the sound person. And of course, looking back, it was hilarious, but I'm sure it was a mortifying moment for her when she realized it.
You don't see my face, still mortifying.
But now it provides a great instructive story for all of my musical casts about microphone etiquette. So it's fantastic. Thank you for that learning opportunity.
I mean, you really should incorporate the fact that like that was my character. I was hyping myself up. I was
Yes.
getting myself ready.
I will make sure that gets in the blog, by the way.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, just didn't know the mic was on. Still my most embarrassing moment to this day.
It's fantastic. It's a great embarrassing moment. So we embrace that. After high school, she was still really smitten by the theater experience. So she moved on to Muhlenberg College in Pennsylvania, where she pursued and received her BA in theater. However, like so many of us theater kids, she realized that she didn't want to go into the theater business after college. I don't blame her. Her love of theater was rooted in her high school experience, which was about the creativity, the collaboration, the community inherent to educational theater, same as me. And the post-college experience is often really confusing. Many graduates spend 4 years in a course of study that they end up like diverging from when they take their first job. And this person was no different. After college, she had some figuring out to do. She took the first job that she could, and she was working in sales. And she quickly realized that she really wanted to work with kids. So she went back to school, got her elementary ed certification to teach. She worked at a nursery school during the day, and she got her credits at night. And after she had her first child, she temporarily went back into sales to spend more time with him in that first really important year. And then she landed her first teaching job in a 4th grade classroom in Allentown, PA. And for those of you who are familiar with 42nd Street, Allentown, PA is like a running theme. Allentown. So that's not lost on her at all. Hasn't been lost on her. And then 2 years later, she finally settled into her current classroom as a kindergarten teacher in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. And to be honest, I can't think of a better person to be at the helm of a room full of 5-year-olds. She is joyful, she is smart, she is funny, she is kind, and I'm excited for everyone to meet her. So, question number 1, what is your name, the year you graduated, and tell me a little bit more about what you do now?
So I'm Jacqueline Musselman, Jacqueline Smith back in the day. I graduated in 2008, and I am now a kindergarten teacher. It's actually my dream job. I've never been happier.
What do you love about it? What's the thing that you love most about it?
Oh, that is such a good question. Okay, so I've always known I've loved kids. I've always wanted to work with kids. Even, as a kid, like I was the 10-year-old babysitting all the kids in the neighborhood. Babysat both of your kids.
True story.
Just kids. And I knew I wanted the younger kids. I like the younger kids. I taught 4th grade. I loved it. I thought that that's where I wanted to be. I was like, oh, 4th grade is amazing. I love this. And then, but Bethlehem was the school district I wanted to be in. And out here in the Lehigh Valley, it's one of the school districts with the best reputation for many reasons. So I knew I wanted to work there, and I got the opportunity. It was a kindergarten classroom, and I was really freaked out because I was teaching 4th grade. And I took it because I wanted to be in the district. And there's just something about those like little kids, and they come in every day and they're so happy to be there. Like they are so joyful. And a lot of them haven't been in school before. So you get to experience them realizing who they are outside of like this tiny little home life that's all they've ever known. This year I had this young boy, and he just really unfortunate, situation. About halfway through the school year, him and his family had to move into a shelter. It was awful. And his life was hard and he recognized that. And he turned 6 in October. So he was a little bit on the older side. He would come in every day and it would take him a little while to warm up. But anytime I put on music, he was singing, he was dancing. And I was like, oh my gosh, he's going to be a star.
This is a
Boy,
theater kid.
Oh my gosh. So I even went to my principal. I was like, okay, so like I will run the after school drama program as soon as I'm done with my master's and both my kids are in elementary school and I like actually have a little bit more time on my hands. Well, I'm going to run the elementary drama program. And I'm going to put this boy in every show that I have. But it's just so cool. Like I get to see these kids and I get to see like the beginnings of who they are as people.
Oh, and let me tell you, for both my kids had the same kindergarten teacher. They still remember her just like so vividly. And we're on Facebook friends. So every once in a while, you know, I'll post things or we'll send her some messages. And it's just the kindergarten teacher is like probably one of the most important people in a child's education because they're the foundation. They're the beginnings. So thanks for being such an amazing person, doing such an important job.
I mean, thank you, Tiro. Like, I don't know that I would have continued this route. Like I was very unsure after college, as you had mentioned in your intro. And I just remember, I don't know, there's so many influential teachers in my life. And I think you have always been like front and foremost. My husband like knows who you are, knows everything about you because you're just like, you're a name that's mentioned in my household. And I don't like, I really do think that all the influence you had on me was just really helpful in me figuring out who I wanted to be in my life.
Well, good. I'm glad. Now that we know who you are, where you are, why you're there, I want you to use your adult brain to go back and describe your adolescent self.
Yeah, this is hard. It's hard to think back to who you were. 3 words come to mind: eager, unsure, and scared. And I think, I don't know, I think that those are the 3 words that I think best sum up who I was as a kid, as a middle schooler and high schooler.
Yeah. As a teacher, we all see like what the kids project. Like we see what's out there. And then there are a lot of us who are like looking and going, And I think that all adolescents are scared and unsure. All of these interviews that I've been doing, like same stories, you know, same stuff keeps coming out. Just different person, different body, different manifestations, you know. But what I remember is the joy, like how joyful you were, sort of like your kindergarten kids. Like you came into high school kind of as that kindergarten kid, just like trying to soak up, you know, all of the excitement. And that was great for me. Like, oh, here's this like really enthusiastic kid and she's got some talent. So let's do things with her. It's a lovely revelation to see. But I understand that every adolescent is just scared out of their mind.
Yeah, I don't know anyone who went through middle school and high school and was like, I've got this. Yeah. I know who I am.
Yeah, no, they say that, but they don't. And we're just like, I know, you're good. You won't be okay. So taking that unsure kind of scared self, what was something that happened in the studio or in rehearsals that helped you to manage or to regulate your adolescent self?
I think everything. I really do think everything. It was structure and routine, which is what every adolescent needs. And it was what I needed. But along with structure and routine, it was safe and it was happy. And it was like a chance for me to explore my creative side and figure out what I enjoyed and who I was. I didn't know who I was. And I mean, who knows who they are? Still trying to figure that one out. And I just remember back too, even, first coming in and being like, I had an awful middle school experience. I wasn't in public school. I was in Catholic school, and it was horrendous. It's traumatizing. Like, I remember being like, okay, the number one thing I have going into the public school is that Billy, my older brother's there, and he's like my dude, my rock, my everything. He still is. It drives my husband nuts. But like, my brother's there, and he's had a really positive experience, and like, I can do this. And I just remember going in freshman year and getting that understudy role and being like, okay, I was the only freshman. I don't know. I mean, you probably don't remember this because you've done like a gazillion shows, but I was the only freshman involved in the fall production in like the acting aspect of it. It was all, I'm almost positive, juniors and seniors. Wow. And I was like the lowly freshman. And I was like, all right, I'm just going to do my part. Like, I'm like the little one, and everyone took me under their wing. Everyone, the cast, the crew, you, Maureen, like everyone was like, all right, like, hey, we're so happy to have you here. Yeah. And I was like, oh, okay, I think they mean it. Like,
oh yeah, because while we're doing one show, we're always thinking about like the next 4, and like who's coming up, and who, because these seniors are going to not be here next year, and who's like the next sort of generation, talent. And so when we recognize, younger students, freshmen and even sophomores, it's like, oh, okay, that person, oh, in 3 years, they're going to be there. I can see it. It's going to happen. So we are always very happy, even if we don't have a lot to give in that show. Even if there's an understudy capacity, I'm like, let's see if this kid is going to learn. Let's see what happens. And you did. So what are some of the lessons that you learned then in the studio and rehearsals and shows that you think about or use today?
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is, everyone always says to me, in my professional life, mm-hmm. Just kidding, in my everything life, because I'm realizing now as I'm saying that out loud that everyone says this to me. Every time I tell someone I have a theater background, everyone's always like, oh yeah, that's obvious.
Yeah.
And like, sometimes it's a compliment and sometimes it's not.
Just take it as a compliment.
But I think in the professional world, so one thing that has changed so much from high school to now is like the confidence that I've gained and the ability to recognize my strengths. Mm-hmm. And I am a good educator. I know that. And I know that there's like a lot of room to grow, but that's the whole point of education is always growing and always learning. Mm-hmm. But I know that right now, like at 33 years old, like I am a good kindergarten teacher. I think so much of that is because of the things I learned. And not just, obviously, like there's that obvious component of like singing and dancing and acting, because that is so important. And like that really, I am an entertainer. That's what I am as a kindergarten teacher. I'm an entertainer. That is
100%
of my job. Like, yes. But just, I mean, my classroom management, right? Like learning how to be a team player, learning how to work with others, and learning how to respect others, and respect others' differences or their opinions. I mean, so much of that has come from my theater background. And again, like when I say theater background, I did theater in college, but it wasn't what it was in high school. I like get teased a little bit by like my close friends and family members, because I actually was like one of those weirdos who loved high school. I had all those like issues and everything, but man, did I love high school. Yeah. And so much of that was like my theater experience.
Right.
So I think that is really a big part of who I am today.
I remember you sort of inhaled and absorbed that environment, and
Mhm.
joy just is the word that kind of keeps coming back to me. You would walk in and, like, I say own the space, like you were taking up your space because that's where you knew that you belonged.
Mhm.
And we need those kids in theater because there are a lot of others who walk in that space who, like, they like it, they think it's good, but they don't own it yet. And we want the kids that own it, the Jackies, the J Smiths, to come in and show them, yes, I own this, but you can own it too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you said that in terms of changing since high school, that you gain more confidence, and you become sort of a stronger person. Any other ways that you've changed, that you see that you've changed since high school?
I just think the biggest thing, I like to think
Mhm.
that, I mean, my whole journey has been like learning to love myself, right? I had some pretty serious mental health issues in high school. I mean, to be fair, who doesn't? Um,
Let me tell you, it's so many. It's so
um, but like, I think, since then it's been learning to love myself and taking those parts of myself that I think are me at my core and have always been me,
Mm,
and appreciating them.
mm,
I like to think that I haven't changed that much. I think I've gained more confidence. I think I've learned um more so how to be kind.
mm,
Not that I wasn't unkind. I wouldn't have called myself unkind in high school, and I really hope that no one ever thought I was unkind.
no.
But I think that a lot of my insecurity caused me to put up like this facade of I'm the best,
Mhm.
I'm cooler than you, and that was a facade. That's all it was. It was a coping mechanism. It was me figuring out how to get through life.
Sure.
As I get older, I've been learning to let that down and try to be true to myself, even if it means like making a fool of myself at times, or like being uncomfortable. That's a big thing, like making myself uncomfortable,
Mhm.
um, so that I can learn and grow.
You definitely grow through that.
Yeah,
It's
motherhood
harder.
changes so much
Yeah.
of everything.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, you know that,
Yeah.
but like being a mom was like a major life change for me.
Yes, indeed. It kind of just pulls the curtains back on all of your fears, all of your insecurities, and it's presenting you with this package of love that your soul is bound to for eternity, whether you
Yeah,
like it or not, you know?
it's terrifying. Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's terrifying.
Yeah. But I see the pictures of you that you post of you and your family. And once again, the joy just like emanates off of the screen. So you're definitely doing something right.
I had this moment the other day where, as I mentioned earlier, we moved to a new house in October and we put the kids in a new daycare, and it's right down the street. So we walk to school every morning. And for like the past month or so, I've noticed that my son Franklin, who is almost 5, he'll be 5 in September, which is like wild. Um, as we walk down the street, it's a fairly busy street. Like we're like actually right on the border of like the city of Allentown.
Mhm.
So it's like a suburb directly outside of a city. So it's a fairly busy street. So like as people drive down the street, Franklin just waves and smiles at every single car. I was like, hi. And if anyone waves hi back to him, he'll look at me and he'll be like, Mommy, they said hi. And I'm like, oh, that's my kid.
Oh God. Oh my God. And you call him Frank the Tank, right?
Yeah.
Love it. I love it. I saw you started to post that when he was born. I was like, yeah, I see that.
like, actually, it's so funny how that came to be. My younger brother, Christopher, when we announced to, our close family and friends that we were having a boy and we were going to name him Franklin, I was probably like halfway through my pregnancy, and Christopher was like, "Oh, that's the best name ever. We're going to call him Frank the Tank." And my husband, who loves my brothers, but is very different than me and my brothers. Like, my husband is like this, like, just calm, peaceful, like Zen dude. My husband was like, no, we are absolutely never calling him Frank the Tank. I'm putting the kibosh on that. It's not happening. We're not doing it. Yeah. He's born and he's Frank the Tank.
Well, and knowing that it came from Chris, I would like challenge accepted. Like, I can just see that being challenge accepted.
Christopher's a force to be reckoned with.
Oh yeah, has been. I mean, for probably his entire life. I remember him. He was a force to be reckoned with then too. But that's a different episode. So
Yeah.
let's swing back to your adulthood now. Adult J. Smith-Musselman. And what would your adult self now tell your high school self to ease the way?
If I could talk to myself in high school, I would 100% tell little J. Smith, that it's okay to say no. I was a yes, please kid. I was a yes, thank you kid. I was a yes kid. And especially as a female, it's not always the way to be. I was raised very big on manners. Yes, please, no, thank you. I was raised like to exist. And I was taken advantage of so many times in so many different ways. And it's because I didn't know how to say no. It's because I didn't know how to like stick up for myself. And yeah, I just wish I knew that it's okay to say no.
Well, you can say it out loud right now to all of those young women who are listening. You can say it loud and proud. It's okay.
It's okay to say no. Okay. It took me lots of years of therapy to get there.
Sure, I'm sure of that. I'm sure. What is something in your adult world that you are grappling with now?
Yeah, balance. I mentioned earlier, becoming a mom is life-changing. And all of a sudden it's a part of my identity. And, up until that point, I was, my job wasn't that important to me. I was working in sales. So I was a wife and a friend and a sister. And like those three things were very important to me. And then you add mom in there and like, that's huge. And then I became an educator and I was like, okay, this is amazing. I love this. This is, wow, life-changing. And that became a part of my identity. And then, I got this job working in the Bethlehem area school district, and I got the opportunity to go back to school to get my master's. And I'm doing that now. And I love school. I've always loved school. I love learning. Yeah. So it's like, oh, I get to do what I want to do. Like, I get to learn about what I want to learn about. So there's another thing that's becoming a part of my identity. So now I'm a wife, a sister, a mom, a friend, a student, an educator. Like, I'm everything. I have this part-time job that I've been doing since I graduated college. I work with adults with disabilities. It's like a social job. It's so big to me. That's a part of my identity. So I have all these things, and I'm like, okay, but how do I do this now? And that right now has been 100% like the most difficult thing for me. But I do try and remind myself, I've had times in my life where I've had to balance things before, and there have been times where the things I've had to balance haven't brought me joy. And if I think about everything on my plate right now, the reason I have to balance them all is because they all bring me joy.
Yeah.
So it might be incredibly difficult for me and I might be really stressed. And the only reason, I'm wearing makeup right now is because I'm doing this and I haven't worn makeup in like, I don't know, 6 months. But like everything that I do right now, as stressful as it is, brings me immeasurable joy.
Yeah. That is the perennial struggle that we as women are more self-aware and accepting that we have needs and we have wants that we want to fulfill. And parenting for many, it is one of those wants and needs. And career is one of those wants and needs. And the other gazillion things that we're interested in doing that do give us joy. And I do feel that there is a higher expectation on us as the mom, right, who's working, because it often centers from mom out. If you have a great father, a great partner, you try and make that as 50-50 as you can, and so that you both can sort of balance the responsibilities, those parenting responsibilities. And I have a great partner in that. But even with that, yeah, I do.
I love him.
But I will tell
Tell him I said hi.
I will. But even with that, it is exceedingly difficult. And there's a lot of feelings that kind of go with that. Am I being the best mom that I can? Am I able to give myself to my job the way it needs to be? With all of this, am I okay?
Yes.
It is hard.
Yes. Yes to all of that.
Join the club of working moms.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you have two. You had Franklin and then Sarah?
Sally.
Oh my God.
And she's a little handful.
She's a little J. Smith, isn't she?
Oh, she's worse. She's a little Christopher Smith.
Oh, man alive.
Mm-hmm.
He probably spends a little too much time with her.
She has she's definitely my husband, and like her personality, she like seems very like laid back and like hesitant of like the world around her. And then the other day, I think it was my cousin who mentioned it. She was like, wow, like you're in trouble. Sally is just like Chris. And I was like, oh my gosh,
help.
I'm so much in trouble.
Well, in that respect, he needs to babysit her now more.
Christopher just moved to Florida.
No.
I know it stinks, but we like video chat with him all the time.
Sure.
So the kids, they know Uncle Chris.
Okay, good.
Yeah, they love Uncle Chris.
Oh yeah, but you know what? Those things that make you go will help her in her autonomy and as a person in her personality in the end. So you have to weather the storm as the mom, but know that later on she'll be set up. She'll be all right. Tell me one thing that you miss about J. Smith, your high school self, and one thing that's gotten better since you turned into an adult.
I don't know that I miss who I was, because I don't feel that I was really allowed to be who I was. I think the only time I like existed in like the space that I felt like safe and comfortable in really truly was like thespians. But like in my home life, I didn't feel like I was allowed to be who I was. So it's really hard for me to think about like, is there any part of me that I miss? Because I think the parts of me that like were allowed to like come forward and be authentic, those are the parts of me that I've done my best to carry with me now. However, high school and the experiences and the friends and the teachers, I miss all of it all the time. I miss you all the time. I miss Hooper. Ferraro, Rosie, I mean, Mrs. Bond,
Yeah.
like
Still there.
I literally think about these people and I'm like, oh man, oh my gosh, Calman. Like I think about these people and I'm like, oh, I loved them. Like my little crew. I don't like keep in touch so much with a lot of my high school friends, but like I do miss them and I will reach out to them every once in a while.
Mhm.
And just like the clubs I was in and the activities I did and all of it. And, going to Christopher's football games and quitting cheerleading so I could go to his games
And watch
the
him.
play. And, going to Billy's marching band competitions and being a part of Key Club and being a part of Thespians with both of my brothers.
Yeah.
Like that was two different experiences because they didn't overlap in high school, but I overlapped with both of them.
Right.
Like that was really cool.
Being immersed in the things that allow you to be your authentic self.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thespians did that for me.
Yeah. I like that. So what's something that's gotten better?
Everything.
I kind of thought you were going to say that.
I think about my life right now and I never, ever would have thought that I'd be here. My mental health issues were significantly worse than I ever let on.
Mhm.
And there were points in my life in both high school and college where I didn't think I'd have any future.
Mm.
And I'm here now. And my husband is like the coolest person I've ever met in my life.
Mm.
I have two incredible kids. My brothers are still my best friends. Billy lives in Brooklyn, which is like over 2 hours away from us, but we see him all the time.
Wow.
Like I have a beautiful house. I have my dream job. Like my life is amazing right now. I just can't believe I got here, but like I'm here, I'm sitting on the floor of like this room and like I look like these are my books. I love my books. I love reading. Like this is my happy place, I'm thinking about it. My kids are 2 doors down at daycare having the time of their life with their friends right now. My husband has his dream job. He just started a new job in the fall and it's magical and wonderful and fantastic.
I love seeing when people realize the lives that they truly want to be in. And you made it. You manifested it for yourself. And you did this. So good job. If you could give a piece of sage advice to high school students now, what would that be?
I think high schoolers right now are so different than high schoolers 15 years ago.
Mhm.
Sorry, dear. I'm aging you, aren't I?
It's okay.
So I think high schoolers are so cool. I think high schoolers are so much more aware. And I think part of this is social media. And I know like people are like, oh, social media is so bad. But like
Yeah.
there's so many good things about social media. And there's so many good things about like this next generation.
Mhm.
Like they're aware of the world around us. Like they're aware of the political climate and the society and these expectations and these unfair expectations that society has for us. And I just think that's like the coolest thing ever because I didn't really know. I was very like egocentric, which again, it's like, and that's, I mean, that is a teenager's brain.
Sure.
So I think like my only advice for teenagers would be like, keep going, like keep pushing, right? Like push the boundaries, advocate, step out of your comfort zone, like everything they're already doing, like take it to the next level. Because if you look at my generation, like if you look at millennials, right? It's like, oh, millennials are gonna like, those are like the, the progressive ones. Like we are not progressive. Like we are not doing enough as a generation. Like we didn't step out of our comfort zones. We're just kind of like sitting back behind our computers and like watching and waiting for the next generation. And sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to do more. I'm a lot of talk and no action. Like I have to do more.
Mm.
And then I'm looking at, my really good friend has 2 teenagers, and the one of them is 16, and she is like just amazing.
Mm.
And she's like she knows what's going on in the world, and she's advocating and she's pushing boundaries, and she's doing these like really cool projects in school on social justice. And we had a professional development at the end of the summer last year,
Mhm.
beginning of the summer, and we had one of the high schoolers from one of our 2 high schools in our district come talk to us, a bunch of teachers. She was like in 11th grade, talk to us about what our school can do to be more equitable
Mm.
and to be more inclusive,
Mm.
and what our district can do. And I'm like, she's saying all these things, and I'm like, yeah. Whoa, you're in high school?
Yeah.
Like, it's just the coolest thing.
Yeah. It's funny because with all of these school systems and districts who are sort of trying to, whitewash and push away the truth, I think that the social media, a little bit for better or for worse, depending on your perspective, is sort of exploding with that education. And where are those kids' attention? In the social media. So like
Mhm.
if I spend any time on TikTok, the things that are coming up are all of these discussions
Yeah.
about, equity and the things that people see are going wrong in our, political cycle and Supreme Court's, decisions and all of that. That is often at the forefront. Now, there's a lot of garbage there too that has to be, parsed out and sorted through.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
if a kid is astute and is a critical thinker in any way, which most of them kind of are, I think, I think they're getting that education despite what their school systems may or may not want them to know.
Yes.
I think that's
Yes. 100%.
what are 3 or so self-care practices that you do now to help center or regulate yourself?
Therapy. Everyone should go to therapy.
Mm.
Just breathing. For the longest time, I didn't recognize the importance of stopping and recognizing your breath. Just that act of being mindful. And I do it with my kindergartners, and I always do it with them. And it is so powerful.
Mhm.
It is so powerful. Stopping. I mean, I wish you could see my kindergarten classroom too. Like, I'll have 20 little tiny humans sitting on my carpet,
Mhm.
and in unison, we're taking a deep breath in, and we're taking a deep breath out, and we're doing it again. And it's like, oh my gosh, this is something that is helping 5-year-olds. This is something that is helping 33-year-olds. It's amazing the power of just stopping and being aware of your breath. So I think that it sounds like so small and so little and like insignificant, but I think that's like my number 1 form of self-care
Mm.
is reminding myself to stop and breathe.
Mm.
And then the last, I have to say, is like my circle, my core.
Mm.
So, spending time with my husband and my kids. Obviously, I need a break from my kids because they're little nightmares.
Because they're crazy.
They're these like tiny little creatures that I created, and they're this perfect blend of me and my husband, who's my favorite person,
Mhm.
and spending time with my brother.
Mm.
And you remember Noah Kaplan?
I do.
He's Uncle Noah to my kids, and so we spend time with him, and like my cousins, and Noah's gotten very close with my cousins, so it's like
Mhm.
that's my core. Like being with them also just brings me joy.
Right.
And calms me and centers me.
Mhm. That's the best. And I think those are 3 great things. The therapy, that comes up, like the whole mental health component just keeps bubbling up in these chats, and how therapy has helped people get past through
I just like
stuff.
don't understand and it's so funny because I don't know if this comes up in like the high school teacher education world, but like in the elementary education world, if you get a group of teachers started on therapy, it's like this big old, yes, therapy, it's the best thing in the world. And like, you should see a therapist for a yearly checkup, like you would your primary care physician. And maybe you're doing great. And they say to you, good, your annual checkup is great. Come back next year for your next annual checkup. Or maybe they say, you know what, let's touch base in 6 months. Or maybe they say, we need to meet every week. Like, we should be looking at mental health the exact same way we look at like physical ailments. And it blows my mind that we don't.
Preach. It's true. And it's far less stigmatized than it was in the past.
Oh my gosh.
More the big T word, right? The therapy word is a more acceptable thing. Although in the bubble that is East Ramapo, I do feel like we're, years behind where I think, like the rest of the world is. Culturally speaking and resource speaking, like all of that, we're still, kind of covered up. But if I can provide any counsel whatsoever to a young person who is in need in that way, I'm like, I really think it would be a good idea to talk to somebody about this. You could talk to me, but I think there are better people than me who really understand, who know, what you need to know. And
yes. And I wish, when I was in high school, there were 3 people who knew about my mental health struggles. My brother, a friend of mine who went to Ramapo, and like one of my many high school boyfriends. No need to name names, but there was one in particular who like I opened up to.
Right.
I kept in touch with him, and he essentially ended up post-college like calling me crazy. That doesn't help.
No.
Like, that doesn't help with this, like the stigma, right? Like,
No.
and this was like post-college. Like, I had already like started therapy. Like, I had already been like really trying to finally start gaining some independence for myself and whatever. And like, this was a man who I had like kept in touch with throughout high school, throughout college. And basically, and not only like told me I was crazy, but basically referenced back to high school. You've been crazy since high school.
Well,
Off
we're
camera.
done with you. You're cut off. Thank you very much. You clearly don't get it. It's okay. We're done with you.
But yeah, I mean, the thing is like, my brother has always been my rock, and he knew. And the friend of mine who I told actually ended up going to my parents, and I'm thankful that she did. Fast forward 10 years later to when I had Franklin, and I suffered from awful postpartum depression, like debilitating postpartum depression.
Sure.
It was so much easier for me to be open about it. And again, it still took a lot. It wasn't like I was like walking down the street telling strangers I had postpartum depression. I was just able to like get help right away.
Right. You could recognize it. You knew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, I was able to talk to people about it.
And just by acknowledging and validating it, like, yes, this is a thing and I need help. Just like I broke my arm and I need help. Like, it's the same thing. Yeah. Because if this brain is like broken, like, you got to fix that. Nothing else is going to be okay. We get that fixed and helped. Well, thank you so much you've shared so much, and I appreciate that. And we haven't spoken in so long, and I love seeing your face and talking to you and seeing how well you're doing. Yeah. Thanks. So tune in next week for our next episode 29, my God, of Change for the Better, the Power of Arts in Education. Thank you, J. Smith.
Thank you, Carol.